It is no secret that things are looking pretty damn rough for Stadia right now. In my last video on this platform, I covered Stadia's New Year resolution, if you can call it that. In here, they expressed these sort of meager achievements that they managed to pull off in 2019. This is, again, a launched product being sold at full price, but it's just missing so many features. It's missing a lot of games. It doesn't work quite as well as it should, but they did say that they're planning to add around 120 games throughout 2020. 10 of those games in the first half of this year alone will only be available on Stadia when they launch, so timed exclusivity. Not sure if that's gonna make people happy to have certain games be strictly confined to Stadia, which is in a rough state. Not a good proposition. The result is that people are beginning to lose interest in Stadia big time. Even loyal Stadia fans have expressed their intent on canceling their subscription after their Founders Edition 3 months time period of Stadia Pro is up. A lot of people who have genuinely said, yeah, this is just not exciting anymore due to the lack of games and the lack of updates and communication on Google's end. Now, today's story is about the total sales of Stadia. Google hasn't released exact sales figures, but you can kind of gauge how well Stadia is doing by the number of app downloads, because the Stadia app is essentially a requirement for the Stadia ecosystem. It is where you manage your account. You have to download it to access Stadia to set things up, and it is through the Stadia app where you get to purchase games and interact with Stadia in a number of ways. So with that in mind, let's look at the most recent data. The following information comes from news outlet pocketgamer.biz, which has managed to acquire Sensor Tower data that provides pretty good estimates. If you go to the App Store right now, the Stadia app number of installs is still frozen at 100,000 plus. That's a very vague number, but with this data right here, we can actually get a better picture. So it reads right here, from November 5th, 2019 to January 13th, 2020, the mobile app version of Stadia has accumulated 550,000 installs in total worldwide across all storefronts. The Stadia app is currently available on Google's Play Store and Apple's App Store, and between those two storefronts and internationally across all countries, all accumulated, that data amounts to 550,000 installs. What this indicates is that the most number of units that Stadia sold, the most number of Founders Edition that people purchased, is sitting at roughly 550,000, and this is 3 months after launch. These are not good sales figures. Usually, a console launch, a successful one, will sell, 1 million units in the first day. So to see Stadia only sell 550,000 max within 3 months, that's a pretty grim picture right there. And keep in mind that this is not taken into consideration people who might have uninstalled the app and then reinstalled it, or people who might have installed the app on multiple devices. But even if we assume that 550,000 installs represent different individual people who install the app, who bought Stadia, even in the best case scenario, this is a very rough number. The article then proceeds by further breaking down this data. Of those 550,000 installs total since Stadia's launch, 383,000 of them happened in November, the launch month, and then in December and January, the app only saw around an additional 167,000 downloads. So that's a pretty big markdown, as it reads right here. The number of app installs has only increased by 43.6% since, indicating a downwards trend, a lack of interest. And then breaking that data down even further, of the 550,000 installs, 409,000 of them happened on the Google Play Store, while 141,000 of them happened on the App Store. So 74% of Stadia users have Android phones or used an Android phone to download the app, and 26% of the total Stadia player base have iPhones and use the App Store to download the app. It's not surprising that it was a lot of the Android people who bought Stadia, given that it's more feature complete on Android, with Pixel devices in particular being able to play Stadia on mobile. And down the line, there's going to be an update where more Android phones will be able to play Stadia. Whereas iPhone users, a lot of the people in the Apple ecosystem, they're going to have to wait a bit before they can engage with Stadia on their mobile devices. Breaking that data down even further, most of Stadia's sales happened in the US. 45% of that 550,000 installs happened in the United States, and then both Germany and France took 10% each with 54,000 and 53,000 respectively. And then in Great Britain and Canada, there were around 43,000 installs in those regions each, which is around 8% apiece. And these are the top 5 countries where the Stadia app was most downloaded. There are a couple other countries, but the data there is more negligible. And then finally, the article notes that in the first fortnight, the app was estimated to have been downloaded approximately 175,000 times. So to make a long story short, Stadia is not selling particularly well. That $130 Founders Edition is not something that's appealing to a lot of people. Stadia as a platform has lost a lot of interest because it launched in such a half-baked state, lacking games, lacking features, with the streaming technology not being quite there yet. And in fact, Jason Schreier back in November 19th, 2019, tweeted the following: Google Stadia is out today and it's already looking like a monumental flop. I heard from one person involved that pre-orders were below expectations. And things have only gotten worse since those underwhelming pre-orders due to, again, a lack of updates, a lack of communication, a lack of excitement within the Stadia ecosystem, and a lack of games, especially a platform that you only gain access to games via the cloud and yet are expected to shell out full price for individual games while also paying $10 a month for a basic feature like 4K 60 frames per second. A business model that doesn't make sense, plus a product that isn't ready for launch. To make matters worse for Stadia, Project xCloud continues to encroach. Microsoft's cloud endeavor continues to look like a far more appealing proposition than what Stadia is offering, especially with a recent update that added a bunch of new games to the still early access preview beta platform. So this was information relayed by Windows Central, and right here they list out some of the games that have been added recently, and there are some pretty big titles here. Halo the Master Chief Collection, Destiny 2, this one in particular is worth noting due to the fact that Destiny 2 is currently the flagship of Stadia, and now xCloud has Destiny 2, and it has certain advantages over the Stadia version, as noted by Windows Central here. On Project xCloud, not only do you get to play online on the go wherever you are on any Android device. That's important to note. Stadia is currently limited to Pixel devices on mobile. With Project xCloud, any Android device will suffice. But you also get to seamlessly sync your save file to an offline local version of the game, running on your Xbox console devices, whether it's the S, X, or Series X later this year. All of this while ignoring the vast amount of superior games Project xCloud already offers despite being in preview. Google Stadia has actually released a product you can buy in stores. So that's the big difference between the two right now. Stadia has already launched as if it were a final product, but it feels like it's in beta. Project xCloud, it still feels like it's in beta. It still does not feel like a finished product. It's far from a fully fleshed out ecosystem, but they're not actually charging money. They're testing things out with xCloud right now, allowing people to sign up so they can preview this service, and people can just play all of these games for free. Currently, the number of Xbox xCloud games are at, I think, 83 games total, where Stadia, despite having been launched as a final product, its library of games is currently sitting at 26 games plus one exclusive game. That's much more meager than xCloud's current offering, and not to mention that xCloud has far more compelling titles. A lot of the Microsoft exclusive games, the first-party games that they're releasing on Xbox, they're on xCloud currently, with Master Chief Collection having been added recently. And a full list of current xCloud games can be found in this article by Windows Central. And scrolling down here, you can see that many of these are pretty big games, pretty well known. All of these you have access to for free right now if you manage to get in the preview, and when the final version of xCloud releases, it'll no doubt be a Netflix of game style of business model where you pay a monthly subscription, a reasonable subscription fee, likely integrated with the Xbox Game Pass, and you just get to play any of these games however you want. You don't have to purchase any one of them individually. You just gain access to this entire library. Now, I do want to note this. Destiny 2 on xCloud right now, this is the free version, whereas on Stadia, you're going to get the full collection. Contains all of the most recent updates and expansions. And it should also be noted that Stadia is a bit more fleshed out than xCloud right now in that you can play on Chrome, or you can use Chromecast Ultra to play on TV, whereas with xCloud, you can only play on mobile right now via the app on Android. But at the same time, xCloud isn't pretending to be a finished product. They're not charging money for anything. You're not paying for individual games. You don't have to pay monthly for 4K 60 FPS. xCloud is currently limited to 720p on mobile. But again, no money is being charged. This is just a preview. It's beta, alpha, whatever you want to call it. And Microsoft is treating it as such. And that's why Project xCloud isn't getting any flack right now, despite being so feature incomplete, and despite it not being quite technically there yet. And xCloud, with its implementation with Xbox Series X, with local hardware and its various other services, I mean, it's going to allow people to choose between cloud gaming and local hardware gaming. With Microsoft, cloud gaming is intended to be a supplement to local hardware gaming rather than a replacement, where Stadia is trying to make it seem as if cloud gaming is the future, it's the only way to play. But to make a long story short, if this is what xCloud can achieve in its preview state, if it already feels like a more compelling product than Stadia, even with its current lack of features, even in its testing stages, I can only imagine the kind of competition it'll be for Stadia once it is fully fleshed out, once all of its features are available. And Stadia, with its meager sales numbers, with the bad impression they made at launch, they have given xCloud a huge opening, and it'll be interesting to see how that competition plays out, whether xCloud will dominate or whether Stadia will be able to recover somehow. For now, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the 550,000 installs figure for the Stadia app, what you think that represents, and what your take is on Project xCloud's latest update. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.